edition of the Global View on Q. A very, very warm welcome to all of our Q family listeners at home and abroad globally. I'm Sheridan Gregoire, Mr. G. It's Thursday, 7th December 2023, and it's 8:05. No, not 8:05, it's 8:15. Yeah, the studios at Q95. Sorry about that. We're just a little bit late tonight because there was another program before us and we had to sort out one or two little technical difficulties there. But you're on Q95, the big station. We're live on all radio frequencies, on TV, on Facebook and YouTube. Follow us at Q95 FM Radio. The on your phone numbers are on the homepage of our website at www.q95da.com. That's Dr. Michaels. If you could please just maybe mute your mic so some of the sounds don't come through. Please share the live, like our pages, get the latest breaking news and reviews only on Q95, the big station. So tonight we continue to revive the spirit of graciousness, of love and peace and prosperity and unity among our Kalinago and Afro-Caribbean brothers and sisters. Tonight we have a lot to talk about, along with you, our Q family listeners, our friends of Dominica, and my distinguished guests, Dr. Irving Andre, Attorney Gabriel Christian, who will join us later, former Scotland Yard Inspector Dr. David Michaels, and Dominican entrepreneur Mr. Jeff Bellot, who also will join us a little bit later from the community of Soufriere. We will, in fact, also be joined for a few minutes by Mr. David Chagall, who is experiencing some challenges with his property in the Northeast, I believe. We will continue from where we left off on Tuesday night with an in-depth review of the circumstances surrounding the recent homicides and arson in the Bois Collet area after two American men have been charged with the double murder of French-Canadian investors Daniel Langlois and his partner Dominic Marchand. All this in the face of deteriorating governance, declining economic conditions, escalating crimes in Dominica. So the question is, are we really better off now than we were 24 years ago when the DLP regime came to office? I just say, no, we're not. So we must look at the dark clouds hanging over the head of Dominica, the big stone in the road, as some would say. We will look at demystifying the whole thing called the big picture. But tonight we reflect on the continuing fallouts for Nature Island from the passport peddling scandals and unaccounted billions of dollars of revenue that are still not in our treasury. But instead we are seeing more land grabbing by foreign nationals while Dominican entrepreneurs are being displaced. We are already witnessing declining CBI revenues. Question is, will it be an issue for the DLP government to pay public officers and NEP workers on time for the carnival season and going forward? Just asking. We continue to witness fallouts in the international community. We continue to see scathing reports from international journalists about Dominica's seeming secretive CBI program. We have seen the DLP government's inability to host West Indies Test cricket matches that they had already booked to host due allegedly to financial constraints. On the heels of these devastating reports, we now see Dominica police carrying out investigations into the circumstances surrounding the brutal murder of philanthropic French-Canadian investor Mr. Daniel Langlois and his partner Dominic Marchand in the Bois Collet area. And 6 days ago, the international press is here in Dominica. We hope the FBI, Interpol, RCMP, the French and other relevant law enforcement agencies are assisting with this investigation. We certainly hope they will assist us with this, with a view to getting justice for Daniel and Dominic and bring closure for their families and friends. Two Americans now are charged with their double murders, but what has been the role of our Attorney General, the police, the parliamentary representative for that area, the Ministry of Tourism, the DDA, the Planning Division, and the Cabinet? Were they not listening to the plight of these two generous, law-abiding investors, decent, reputable human beings? Why did they have to die for no good reason? Who are these people anyway who committed these heinous murders? What do we know about them? Who brought them to Dominica? Are they passport wheelers and dealers? With whom do they hobnob in Dominica? What lessons will we learn from this disaster? Are these land ownership and road access disputes brewing all over Dominica as we speak? We will ask Mr. David Chagall. We call for speedy, appropriate justice for Daniel and Dominic, and we'll remember them in our prayers. But it is curious and mind-boggling that the relevant Dominican authorities failed to resolve that impasse, since it appears that the said access road was of public interest and is especially of great interest to the grieving Dominican workers who are now in limbo at Colibri Ridge Resort. The farmers and landowners who wish to access their lands in the area via that said road. It is unclear as to why the road between two parcels of adjoining lands was not clearly defined and delineated and demarcated in the original transfers of ownership of the land titles in the first place. Are the DLP regime leaders paying any attention to the spirit and noble intent of Premier E. Oli Blas' alien land holding law and regulations that are supposed to help protect Dominica's land for Dominicans and their future generations? This makes it absolutely critical that we urgently embrace the imperative to appropriately reform our electoral and campaign finance laws and regulations without any further delay, in a manner that will yield free and fair elections on a level playing field in the next general election and return Dominica to good governance. We certainly hope this conversation tonight will help our young people to determine and appreciate their true values, the existing possibilities and potentials for making themselves truly economically independent after 45 years of self rule. Most Dominicans believe that we are more dependent now than we were on the past governments in terms of personal and household incomes, in terms of land and home ownership, living wage employment, as compared to the past eras. But with good governance and hopefully in the not too distant future, Dominica's better days are still ahead of us, and the young people will be able to benefit from that transition. But Dominicans are now feeling the pinch in their pockets. My guests, Dr. Irving Andre, Johnny Gabriel Christian, who will be with us later, former Scotland Yard Inspector, Dr. David Michaels, Dominican entrepreneur Jeff Bellot, who's with us now, I believe, from the community of Soufriere. And you, our cherished listeners and callers, will make the case for the urgency of arriving at a consensus now on the way forward for our nature isle and move ahead to accomplish that objective with crystal clear voices demonstrating the power of the people. That appears to be the only way to bring back good governance to Dominica, fix its economy, and restore respect to our country's devastated image and reputation at home and abroad due to corrupt passport transactions and major due diligence failures. So we ask you, our Q family and friends of Dominica, to join us on our radio and television frequencies in Dominica, on our live stream on the internet at www.q95da.com or on Facebook or YouTube. Have your say as you do every Tuesday, but today it is Thursday, the special edition of the Global View on Q. So a huge shout out, hugs, love, appreciation, and a big thank you, of course, to our healthcare providers, our frontline workers, police and fire officers, our teachers, our doctors, nurses, and other public and private sector patriots at home and abroad. We welcome you in every Dominican and every friend of Dominican to the Global View on Q. We embrace you wherever you are tonight, every nook and cranny in every village, every community at home in Dominica, in the region, and globally. Thank you, Sherwin, keeping us on the air. Thank you, Lambi, on the console, as always, at Q95 Directed to Traffic. We will take your calls a bit later. The people's voice is always a priority on the Global View on Q. Call us anytime in the program, and Lambi will just give us a signal. We will take your call. But let's get started. You get the first word in getting the ball rolling, Dr. Andre, with your first presentation as we look at Pidi Colibri as it relates to what that experience means for the future of Dominica, the politics of expropriation, how Dominicans are being robbed of their rights, their lands, and their ancestral space. The question is, what must we do to preserve our country, especially in the absence of good governance? I want to go over to you now, Dr. Andre, if you could unmute your mic. So let's get going.
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm hearing you extremely loud and clear. You sound so powerful. I don't know what you had for dinner.
That's a secret. Let me say good evening to esteemed panelists, Dr. Michael, Mr. Gabriel Christian, who is there, Mr. Bellot, the gentleman from Soufriere, as I understand it, your listeners. Obviously, without listenership, you would not have a program. But let me start by saying what is clearly the right conclusion. This was a tragedy waiting to happen. The evidence speaks for itself, and I will show you why I arrive at that conclusion. This case brings out some serious issues relating to Dominica's governance, our sovereignty or lack thereof, our investment policies, our due diligence or lack thereof in terms of investment, and our attitude to our local population. With great fanfare in July of 2016, the Prime Minister gave a speech in the Parliament boasting about the CBI program, the integrity of it. Let me just quote something that he said, Mr. G, if you don't mind. He said, Madam Speaker, quote, the resources from the Citizenship by Investment program are deposited with the National Bank of Dominica and the Royal Bank of Canada. The only signatories to these accounts are the Financial Secretary, Budget Controller, the Accountant General, and the Senior Examiner and Corporate Service Officer in the Citizenship by Investment Unit. Drawdown from the bank accounts must be done by two of the officers so that no one officer can undertake any transaction or if he is on his or on her own. So from the very start, this program was sold as something which was beyond reproach. The revenues from the program were deposited in the National or Consolidated Fund. And we know, given the record, because we must judge by the record, that was all a travesty, a grand fraud on the Dominican public. And in September of 1916, you had a signing of 3 contracts. These contracts were the actual jewels in the crown of the CBI program. A contract related to the development of a resort called Jungle Bay in Soufriere. Another one related to something called the Silver Beach Resort and Spa in Picard. And the third, the Bois Côtelette Nature Island and Bois Côtelette facility right there in Soufriere. And from the very start, this Bois Côtelette investment opportunity was hailed as something pristine, something that Dominicans could be proud of. After all, it was situated in, according to one advertisement, the best preserved example of plantation architecture on the island, containing buildings for the processing of coffee, sugar, and cocoa with historic ruins. And therein lies the very first question. Why in heaven's name would the government of Dominica allow a foreigner, and we'll talk about that soon, to buy one of the best preserved plantation architecture on the island? What about the historic legacy of Dominica? Is it or should it not be preserved? Should it be hawked like every parrot you can find? Like the piece of land that the Cabrits given to those who managed to build Kemplinski? Should it be hawked and sold to every person who's looking to make a dollar on the backs of Dominica's heritage? That's the very first question which is raised by that transaction. But not only that, it promised, this thing was sold as perhaps a savior to Dominica. The attorney representing the Bois Côtelette estate indicated that also planned a food and beverage outlets, conference facilities, a sports and spa complex on our 52-acre site at Soufriere. Bois Côtelette will be a 5-star luxurious living development and club facility, and it will significantly boost the island's marketing profile and hospitality industry. How ironic, how cruelly ironic. What due diligence did they do on the owner? The one called Jonathan, who was hobnobbing in later years with every member or some members of the government, including the parliamentary representative of Soufriere. What did they do to ensure that this investment opportunity or facility would live harmoniously with the resort built by Daniel Langlois and his partner? None. Because as Mr. Bellot will probably later tell you, since 2016, there was ongoing, incessant conflict motivated by one person, the proprietor of the Bois Cotlet estate. I can indicate to you, and I stand to be corrected, that tour operators, farmers, residents, tourists, hikers, they all complained of being harassed by the owner of the facility. Harassed by the owner facility. Why? Because despite the fact that there is a public road gaining access to the Colibri Ridge facility, he believed that he had the wherewithal to stop that traffic, whether out of greed, jealousy, or a combination of both, or whether out of a belief that there will be no repercussions to his actions. He believed that that was what he had to do. And he did so despite a court action, despite a court order in 2019, despite what we call an ex parte injunction in 2018, indicating that the owners of the Colibri Ridge estate and their patrons and their employers should have unrestricted access to their facility, despite the fact, even if it ran through the estate of Bois Cotlet. Was he prepared to accept that? Of course not, because he had the backing of those who control the CBI program, because he was involved in the CBI program. And can you believe, Mr. G? Besides digging up the roads, he actually threatened and coerced people with dogs, a white American in a black country using dogs to keep away people from his property, reminiscent of what happened in 1963 in America, when this police officer set dogs on persons protecting their own rights. The people of Soufriere had a protest in 2018. Nothing came out of it. Following that protest, there was this decision by Justice Stevenson Brooks. Is that the same judge that I'm thinking of? Yes, it is. Indicating clearly and without any contradiction that this is a public road. The people have been using that road for generations. Their fathers, their forefathers, their ancestors. But this fellow, with very slim links to Dominica, comes to Dominica and decides or decrees that no one should have access to that road. And let me digress, because a couple of days ago on a radio station, I believe it was Cairo FM, you had a senior counsel, one of the governments, whatever, saying it was not a public road. And you know his reasoning, this brilliant fellow? Because the government didn't maintain it, so it was no longer a public road. This is an office of the court, you know. And bear in mind, as I told you, there is a decision in 2019 indicating clearly and unequivocally that this is a public road. But this is the travesty which presently exists in Dominica in terms of legal chicanery. How the law is subverted and abused to deprive people of their rights. So that this fellow, Jonathan, obviously felt, to the extent that he was involved in this thing, and the evidence is clear, that he had some involvement. Why do I say that? I'm quoting from one of Canada's major dailies, the Toronto Sun newspaper. And here's what it says. And I should indicate that this story was on the headline of another Canadian newspaper, the Toronto Star, Tuesday and Thursday. First page, front page. And here's what it says. One of the suspected hitmen allegedly led detectives to Leher after suffering severe burns at the crime scene. He said the New Jersey chocolate baron allegedly had hired him to commit the vile deed. Now the quartet is rotting in jail. This is Dominica. They're talking about Dominica, my friends. Sticky situation. Chocolate kingpin eyed in Caribbean double murder of rich Canadians. And you still have people in Dominica saying it's those who criticize what's happening. They're the people giving Dominica a bad name. We need a priest to absolve persons of their sins. And hopefully priests are not saying that. But this is what's happening. This situation was allowed to fester like a sore, a carbuncle. You may ask, well, this is 2020 wisdom, Andre. What could they do? Well, let me give you an example, because if we're talking about what's happening in Dominica, we have to talk about it unequivocally. Here is what I wrote in terms of a biography of Edward Oliver LeBlanc. In the mid-60s, a Russian immigrant purchased 40 acres of land in the Pawhuska area. Well, actually, it's the Dr. Edward Watty, the late Dr. Edward Watty. Now, a Russian immigrant purchased land adjoining Dr. Watty's property. On attempts by Dr. Watty to run a road at the margins of the Russian's land to have access to his land were rebuffed by a Russian, for God's sakes. Thereupon, Dr. Watty, poor fellow, went to Edward Oliver LeBlanc. You know what LeBlanc told him? He said, do you want me to say, or you want me to read the bulletin board instead? It's up to you.
I'll leave it up to you. Just tell us.
LeBlanc told him, as if he was speaking to a student, aren't you a Dominican? How do you expect a foreigner to come to Dominica and prevent you from going to your own land? And you know what LeBlanc did? He didn't have all these degrees that these folk have, these peacocks in power. He didn't have the blessings of all that learning, or should I say, that avarice or greed. By the following Monday, LeBlanc had dispatched 2 D8 caterpillars to bulldoze a road across the foreigner's land to Dr. Watty's property, because he felt that no Dominican should be dispossessed in his own country. So the victims, unfortunately, of this avarice, this obsession to possess, this license to possess property belonging to the state or to the Dominica, that has existed for a long time. But not all administrations stood aside and looked and played diplomat by hugging both sides while screwing another one of the two. And this is why we're in it today. We're all over the news once again for all the wrong reasons. It again highlights the fact that there is very little in terms of vetting of those who either buy passports or buy diplomatic or Dominican passports, or those who sell it. These languages were well respected. Another newspaper said today that Daniel was the recipient of the highest order in Quebec for his pioneering work in the art industry, animation, and he was also a recipient of the Order of Canada. And it detailed and documented how we came to Dominica. And among the persons who went to the jail today were hordes of persons from Soufriere and Scott's Head. A few had lost their income, their ability to provide for their children, the ability to send their children to school, the ability to help build their homes, the ability to put food on the table. This did not have to happen. We must break and shatter that conspiracy of silence, where persons who are in a position to stand up are standing silent while Dominicans' integrity and sovereignty is being sold for a few dollars more. And let me repeat, what this chap Jonathan was doing was known since 2016. There were complaints made to the police. He allegedly threatened a few people with guns. One of the newspaper articles, imagine this. Toronto Sun says, quote, according to Post Media, travelers complained on Google, TripAdvisor, and Facebook about visiting Langlois' compound. They allegedly were followed and screamed at by Lehrer and his wife. And they detailed that she was also arrested. The same thing used to happen to the people of Soufriere. Were their complaints taken seriously? Of course not. Because the whole question of justice and law enforcement is a reflection or a sensitive measure as to how much money you have in your pocket. This whole CBI program has meant the degeneration of everything of value in terms of our core values: equality before the law, the preservation of our pristine landscape, the preservation of the rights of Dominicans on the ground, irrespective of how much money or how much money they don't have. What we have seen is a total breakdown of all those values we have cherished and all those values that prior and previous administrations have fostered and have adhered to. And that is why we are in a sorry predicament today. I'll rest with these few opening words, Mr. G. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for those opening words there, Dr. Andre. We will be calling Mr. David Shagel very soon. But before we call him, because he has a situation as well, and I would hate for his situation to get to this, what we've seen now in Soufriere. But I want to go over to Jeff Bellot, because Jeff, you're very integrally familiar with the situation on the ground. You knew these very fine folks. You worked with them. You did things with them. I know you're a man who's been contributing to your community in many more ways than we can imagine. I want you to sort of take it from where Dr. Andre left off, because obviously you must be quite familiar with some of the things that Dr. Andre was talking about. So let me just go over to you, Jeff, so you can give us your, I want you to tell us in your own words there now, what the kind of experience that the people who had their jobs at the Colibri Ridge resorts, how do they feel now? Do they feel in limbo? Are they sure what's going to happen in the future? Do they know whether they'll have a job? How are they feeling now? You tell us about it.
Good evening, Mr. G. Good evening to the colleagues, special good evening to listeners, especially the folks of the Soufriere Scottsdale Gallion area. And again, I just want to reassure the family of Mr. Langlois and Madam Dominique that the people of Soufriere Scottsdale Gallion are very good people, kind people, and we never would like to see any such thing happen to Mr. Langlois and Dominique. And unfortunately, this situation was a matter of time. From what I personally know and I personally experienced, and that we hope that the government will do the right thing, and that we want to reassure this family that we are solidarity with them. And that was proven yesterday at the court with the amount of people from the Soufriere Scottsdale Gallion area that went to court in support of these two victims. Let's say, as Mr. Andre said, Dr. Andre said, when these things happen, we ask why, right? But as he rightly said, there were signs of these things. And I can testify to some of those signs with these things. Daniel did so many things for the people of Soufriere Scottsdale. And most people will tell you, they're honest with you, they put your political differences aside, they will tell you, Daniel Langlois and Dominique has done more for the people in Soufriere Scottsdale Gallion than the current PALREP we have, and even to an extent of the current government we have. That's the contribution this man made. And with this man gone, the amount of people that he employed, not just working directly at his facility, but the indirect jobs. You see, Mr. G, a lot of time we look at jobs, but we don't look at the indirect jobs. These gentlemen would spend every dime in the Soufriere Scottsdale area. When they have an event at his facility or elsewhere, he would go to Scottsdale and purchase things, even as ice. A simple thing as ice, he would make sure he purchases that in the area. Anything that the Soufrière Scottsdale Community Galleon is selling that he can use at his facility for his guests or otherwise, he will purchase it there. So in other words, he was spending money in the community. The question becomes, what is going to happen to this property now? What's going to happen to these people who lost their job? Well, I can tell, I spoke with some of them today, and they are very, very concerned because the treatment that they received from Mr. Lagwan Dominic was so good. He took care of these people, gave them employment, able to help them to get away from like the day-to-day, how hard things are in Dominica, able to help these people to meet things at the end of the month, their bills at the end of the month, able to make ends meet, so to speak. And this gentleman sadly has been taken away because of our behavior the government has that never really pay attention to the situation. Or maybe they well knew of the situation and they refused to pay attention to it. Now, here's what I know about Langwes. Daniel, from since after Hurricane Maria came, he's been working so well with the people in the area. The gentleman helped build a school in Soufrière. He helped build he helped with this preschool, a jet in Soufrière, one in Scottsdale, and many other projects that he worked with the people in the community. But let's look at the issue on the land. So this area, I'm familiar with it, and even the area where Jonathan owns. My dad had a property in that same area as well, where we used to do what we call Bucklet gardening. So we used to go there. Here's the thing. This is a road that's been there for a while, and it's been done to what we call a shortcut. It's a road that's been here for public road access, as far as I know it, as far as we know it. Okay? This man loved the people so much of Gallion. When Hurricane Maria came and the road was blocked, this is how significant this man was. The man felt so bad, so sad for seeing people carrying heavy stuff up their head going up to Gallion. And he made that road access for the people of Gallion, which was going to be a public road. Well, a road being caught and all of that happening, why public work never intervened and said it was not a public road? Why public work never intervened? And I know he spoke to the people at public works because this man and I spoke with the gentleman on numerous occasions when I'm in Dominica. This is not somebody I see on the road and say hello. We would sit and have discussions. Daniel mentioned to me of some of the challenges he's having. Unknowing to me, they were that severe, including mentioning that dogs were chasing him from that gentleman who got arrested. This is Daniel's words to me. When we spoke about the community, he said there are some challenges and he has a neighbor that gave him problem and stuff like that. But I never realized that was such of a serious issue. This gentleman helped support with the divers that they have, the Konekonla. He was part of the community. He was very involved in the community. Unfortunately, the parliamentary representative for the Soufrière constituency happened to be the Minister of Tourism. It's unfortunate now, but fortunately, this will be a situation. You are the tourism minister. These people are investing in the country, helping our tourism product grow. And you are the power rep. It's like you have the cake and eat it. Why you did not take care of the situation? Now, Mr. G, this is where leadership comes in. If I was the power rep for the Soufrière constituency and understanding the situation, what Daniel has contributed to the community, and even the other gentleman himself, he brings business to the island. This is a great opportunity as me as parliamentary representative and Minister of Tourism to bring these gentlemen together to come to an agreeable agreement, how we can work these things out. And if I'm noticing someone seems to be a great aggravated or want some sort of violence or stuff, I put him and say, listen, this is the law and this is what we have to follow. We go to plan, we don't have to do, and we'll take care of this issue. But I think the power rep was too busy playing politics and being voted. So that's the way I want to ask the Prime Minister a question. If you remembered a few years back, There was a situation involving a former power rep for the Suffolk constituency, Mr. Peanut, and he came and there was a by-election. He has to go on public, whatever the case may be. This case never called. So, Prime Minister, show your consistency. Either you ask the power rep to resign as Minister of Tourism or resign as the power rep, because she has failed Dominica, she has failed you as Prime Minister, she has failed the government, she has failed the people of the Suffolk constituency, and someone need to pay the penalty for this action. Someone need to be paid for that. If I was the Prime Minister of Dominica and claim I was a man who don't know anything about this, which maybe you don't know, we don't know, I would have taken action to show the Canadians that I'm serious about this. This is wrong, and the power rep must have known about this. Something did not done. We need to have an investigation in cabinet. Somebody should get fired. This is what leadership is. Someone has to pay the consequences. However, this is what leadership would do. But however, the situation is not like this. Because this gentleman, the accuser, he has harassed people in the area, even the locals when they go running. I intercovered the gentleman one time going up to the hot water spring, and this guy coming down in his vehicle like he on the road. I had to put myself in the ditch, into the drain, so he could go full speed and ask him about what's going on. And I was so, be careful with this guy because he think he owned the place. I'm like, well, what is happening? Lango and I had discussions, and I said, well, have you talked to the police? And he said, yes, all this thing has been happening and stuff, but things are in court. We're going to have to wait. So, for Christ's sake, the power rep and Langoas, I've seen them had discussion. They talk well. So, for Christ's sake, at least she should be aware of the situation. Why that was never brought to the attention of the proper authorities, the police, planning division, and so on. Even public works went to the work there once, and the man ran public works. So this was, as Mr. Andre said, this was a matter of waiting to happen because the people responsible did not take the necessary action to stop such horrific, really, this is really bad, Mr. G, what happened in Soufriere. The people are so hurt by this.
I can see that. I can hear it in the sound of your voice, and I'm sure you convey the feelings of the people of Soufriere. I just wanted to ask Lambie whether he has got Mr. David Gashel on the line yet. If he's Dr. Andre, yes, Lambie. So I'm going to help him hold on the line. I'm going to talk to him now. I'm going to bring him in now. You can bring him in now, because I want to just say to Dr. Andre that, Mr. David Gashel, he has a property somewhere on the Northeast Coast, and he seems to be having some serious issues. And I wanted you to hear from him to see what you can make of all of this, and what he should be doing from now, because we don't want another such incident to occur in Dominica. David, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Good to have you.
Yes,
I have with me Dr. Irving Andre, I have Jeff Bellot, and we hope later on we would have Mr. Gabriel Christian with us. But for now, I wanted to give you a chance to just meet everybody and to just say hello and to tell us some of the issues that you're having, because we really do not want your situation to get aggravated to the extent that something like this could happen in your situation. Really don't want that to happen to you. So tell us what is happening with you in your area.
Well, for me is so I live in Hatton Garden. I've had the same farm for about 23 years. And I live on Crappahall River. And starting in February, Chinese showed up in my yard Saturday morning and told me that they're my new neighbors, that they're going to make a quarry above me for the airport project. That's what they say. So then the Monday I go running to planning to find out what the heck is going on. And they basically bounce me around like a ping pong ball and nobody gives me no answers. They won't tell me about any environmental impact assessment. They won't tell me about mitigation for the river, because that river was the second cleanest river in the country. Now, well, later down, months after that, when the Chinese started, they destroyed the river. So now I can't drink from the river no more. There's no fish or crayfish or anything living left in the river except a couple of VO that survived. But, anyway, so in February, they come and say that by March, April, government come to me, the head of planning and the head of the airport project, Bernard Lloyd, and they tell me that, there's going to be a project above you, and it's only tariffs they're taking, and they're going to do a social environmental impact assessment because it will affect your family and your land, and we need to open the road wider onto your land to be able to make basically a highway in the middle of Zion where it's only a 10-foot feeder road up till then, and to make it wide enough for two dumpers to be able to pass side by side, and they're going to bridge across the river for them to go up to the quarry. So that's what they were saying then. Well, it turns out nobody from planning or SEIA or EIA never contacted me. And a month after that, the Chinese and they start their project. So they start to tear out the road. They tear out into my land. There's no agreement with me. So they start sending excavators and tearing out my land. And I try to block the excavator for a while. I can do it, but I have to go after. And I only have my body. And then after that, they go higher up and they destroy the river. Now, what I understand after a lot of months of, because I've basically become a refugee for my own Zion, for my own land. Because I can't farm no more there because my workers can't even come up and down. Most times, even this evening, right now as I speak to you, I'm just coming from Marigot police station because when I tried to go home tonight, once again, after how many agreements the Chinese agree that they they'll at least let it be possible, again, the road is torn out and they still have dump trucks running at 8 o'clock at night. And I'm impossible for me to reach up home, so I can't go home. Then they pass and I can finally destroy my vehicle again to try to get up there. And coming back down, it gets stuck. So I go police. I say, please. They over and over. Because, I'm sorry, I'm talking too long probably. And I'm sorry, sir. But it's a lot that's going to happen on. Last week, the Chinese wanted me arrested because when I finally tried to stop the excavator with a stone and I burst the window as a warning, I wasn't trying to hit the man. But the Chinese playing like he can't understand me and I telling him, stop digging on my land. When the stone hit the window right behind the driver's head, suddenly he can speak English. And he tell me, sorry, okay. And then he understands and he turn off the engine and come down. So then the police charge me for damaging his window. But up till now, no government has given me any money or agreement for the hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage, much less the destruction of the river or how I can drink. Because for months I had to be carrying every drop of water that I needed a couple miles to get it up home. When I bought my land on a clean river and for more than 2 decades raised my children on that river, they're big men now. How many generations of Marigot people have been blessed by that river and water and crayfish and food and everything. And so like when I go police, of course, I'm the troublemaker again. Because the police tell me the Chinese have told them they're maintaining the road. Even though I tell the police, please, use your eyes. God is my witness, but your eyes will be your witness. Don't listen to more lies. Come and see. They tell me they're not engineers. So, at this point, they want me to be a terrorist for my own land.
David, let me just engage you a minute there, because I really wanted to bring in Dr. Andre as well on this, because as I said earlier, I suspect that this type of thing is happening in various areas, because I've heard the people of Wesley complaining, and we know that people have been complaining about similar projects in certain places in Dominica. We really would not like to see Dominica become that place now in the region, where you're having all these contentions where people have to resort to protecting their property, where they're not getting any sort of, response from the legal authority.
It's much bigger than me. It's much bigger than me. It's the ecocide of the entire rainforest to make a copper mine. They're telling us it's Batarish, and where they're exploding and using dynamite is where the Australians years ago wanted to dig copper, to mine copper. That's the exact spot that they are at right now. I use drones to overfly it to show. I have all the evidence.
So Dr. Andre, I wanted to see whether you could come in here, because I think David is even saying, he's giving indication that these people seem to be looking for copper. in the area, and they say they're maintaining a road, but they're building something and it's creating damage in the road.
No, but the
Can't access
road
properly.
is to get to the mine.
Yeah.
They're only making a road to get to their mine, what they're calling a quarry, but it's going to be much more than that.
I see.
The drone shows that. No, listen, my brother, anything that is being said to us as what they are doing is not at all what they're doing nor their agenda.
Dr. Andre, maybe you can come in here a little bit. Stay on the line, David. Stay on the line.
I heard David. I heard David on Matt, very arrogant gentleman, and he made reference to what happened in the 90s when there were efforts to have an Australian company engage in mining of copper in Dominica and so on, and certainly the initiative was spearheaded by Arthur Mate. And certainly he motivated a significant amount of Dominicans who certainly stood up and say that if in fact that was true, that was indeed the case, then that should not take place in Dominica. Because again, at what cost? At what cost do you look for something that may not even be there, that may not even be viable? How much of the landscape do you destruct? How much of the forestry do you get rid of? How much of the riverscape do you pollute or destroy? Isn't that what defines Dominica, for God's sakes? We know you just have to look, Google the Chinese in Africa or in the Philippines to know the cost of development which they are engaged in. We know, and yet we allow that to happen with impunity. What more do we have to lose in the pursuit of some vainglorious landscape or some vainglorious type of activity in the name of investment? These folk, even if there's copper there, are going to take it and run. And what is left, or what will be left? A destruction of the mountains. One of our residents, American Dominican, Christine Semelda, wrote a book to the effect, nobody owns the rainbow. Nobody really owns Dominica. To desecrate, to decimate, to destroy at their will with the blessings of the political directorate. That is the bottom line. Are we going to stand and look while that takes place? Daniel would be alive if we had taken a stand. Bear in mind, in 2019, is it 2019? Yes, it is. The court ordered mediation between the warring parties. And bear in mind, the Attorney General was named as an intervener in the case. He knew what was going on. What did they do? What did they do to protect the rights of the owner or the proprietors of Petit Colubri? Precious nothing. They sold them out just as they sold out the interests of the people of Soufriere and Scott's Head, who worked there, who benefited from there, who were patronized by these folks. And look at where we are now. The headlines of every major paper and every news media and every television station throughout North America and Europe. And then you have local Pharisees, who is accusing persons like myself and others on the ground of destroying the good name of Dominica. No. Is there a place in the Windsor Park where you can go and...
I repent all the time, everywhere. But you know, David, I don't want to keep you too long, but I just wanted to really for you to come back in. You see, Dr. Andre is a question. Here's a question. Hold on, David. Here's a question that Dr. Andre raised. He asked, what did they do to help Daniel? So the question is, what are the authorities doing to help you in the situation that you're in now. It is your property. You paid for it. You have lived in on it. Your children grew up on it. What are the authorities doing to help you in order to prevent the escalation into what we saw in Soufrière?
May I say something?
Yes.
I think there's a basic premise that Dominicans can all agree on and that need to rally around, which is that Dominican resources belong to the people of Dominica. All across the board, whether it is water, copper, whatever the mineral or blessings of the soil of Dominica belongs not to the political class or political elite, certainly not to any foreigner or foreign investor. It belongs to the people of Dominica. And so if the people of Dominica are the owners of this is theft. This is the theft of Dominica's resources. And the reclamation has to be that Dominican resources belong to the nation, not the party or any particular political power, whatever administration is in power. That all of the other, like they say, the truth is simple and lies are complicated. All of that we're getting tied up in right now is excuses for not demanding rights. Daniel died because our government sees the actual rights of the people as a threat to their power. You see, like, just if I look in a dictionary and I see that government means that it governs by law, that defines a government. If there's no law, there's no legitimate government. If I look for regime in the dictionary, I see rules by power. So that is what we have. And if that is what we have, my brother, it is not to the government we should be asking, it is to our brothers and sisters we should be linking arms and demanding our rights. And that comes by blocking projects that are destroying our nature. Not talking about it, but we need to link arms and go to the place and sit down. Gandhi said that first they ignore you, then they insult you, then they try to kill you, and then you win. If we don't join together, they will just kill us. If we link together, we will win.
Well,
This time is my path.
I'm very happy that I asked you to join us for a few minutes here tonight, because I'm hoping that the exposure that you've been getting on Q95 with Matt and with us here tonight, I'm hoping that will bring a lot more attention to your dilemma that you're having on your property, your own property, the dilemma that you're having. And I hope that the authorities will listen and pay attention and do something to assist you. And
But
so,
I'm sure they know what's going. But sir, it's 10 months, and I think every one of them. So I would not go to a man who has thieved me 5 times and ask him to come help me put things back. That doesn't make sense. That's not how I see God's law. Because if we know what is right, we do know what is right, and we do know what is wrong. And what they're doing is so blatantly wrong that it's not like you could go to somebody who's blatantly doing wrong and ask them to have a conscience they don't have. We who have conscience must be loving and linking together to demand our rights. That's how colonialization ended. That's how women got the right to vote. That's how slavery, everything. The only way people ever get power once it's taken away is by linking arms and demanding it. We can't ask the snake to give back the chicken he's stealing from my fowl pen. That don't make no sense. I mean that with love and respect. I know I'm an idiot. I don't know much, but I know some simple truth, and that to me is true.
well, I think you're talking the truth. You're saying what is correct. And I certainly hope this thing will get resolved, because, as I said, I would not like to see anything like this happen again that is happening in Soufrière. And I mean, really and truly, it is a lesson, or it's a teaching moment. If we don't learn from that, obviously, we're going to make more errors like that, and we're going to have to pay a price.
That is right. That's true. And what stops that? What stops people who are already corrupted beyond measure? Do we think that, honestly, we can give them an argument that somehow they will be moral? Do we believe that? Do we believe that somebody who has no love can be told to be compassionate? How is that possible? We are the ones with compassion, and we have to use that strength and talent and wisdom and skill to stop a regime from destroying us, because the regime already sold itself to China. So we who are not sold must join together and stand up for our country as patriots. Not partisans, not party, patriots. And so I'm a Rasta. I've been Rasta for 36 years. I never thought I'd live long enough that me, who is chased by the police, would have to beg the police to follow the law.
Well,
I'm a grandfather begging a government to follow the law? No. We need to stand up and demand our rights.
David, I want to thank you for joining us here tonight. I can see the problem that you have, and I'm hoping certainly that something is done to resolve it in the most amicable way. And I really feel for you. We all feel for you, and we certainly wish you all the very best.
God bless you. Thank you.
And thanks a lot, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Yes. You too, sir.
Yeah, so Irving, you see what we're talking about. You see how we relate what is happening there to what went on in the Soufriere area. You see, we do not want something else to develop like this, because it seems this man is very hurt. I mean, he is very, very hurt, and somebody needs to help resolve this thing, because it does not look like it's going to go away by itself.
We need the power of moral persuasion. We need to stand up en masse, peacefully, and make it known to all and sundry, particularly now that the international press is here, to understand what is truly happening in the state of Denmark. I know there's a vigil in Soufriere tomorrow evening. I think we should, those of us who can, make our way there and show our solidarity to the people of Soufriere, of Scottshead, of Salisbury, and in every nook and cranny of Dominica where persons have been overlooked and their rights have been trampled upon. Remember years ago, some single mother in Portsmouth asked for help, for God's sakes. And an acolyte dismissively said of her, "Them kind of women dear." And some of the biggest women's rights advocates in the government, you patan, they didn't hear. What a bunch of hypocrites. And that's what we're having now. To protect the little nest egg, everyone is looking aside. They gave Daniel an award in November 2022, for God's sakes. Rather than give him peace of mind, rather than give him the satisfaction of having a court order adhered to, they gave him a medal for his contribution to the environment at a time when his rights were being eviscerated by an ally of the CBI program. What do you call that, Mr. G? I mean, the English language, I mean, sometimes it doesn't...
Let me just...
I don't know.
Can I just...
Probably Mr. Bellot is a man of
words. Let me just take a call from Lambi. I think you want to take a call. Let's see if we can take a call for a few calls from our listeners.
Yeah, good evening, caller. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Lambi, good evening.
Go ahead.
Mr. G.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Dr. Andres and Attorney Christian Gabriel, good evening. And most specifically, my cousin Jeff, good evening. Mr. G, I am from Scottsdale. And Jeff Tav made a great contribution tonight, but I want to say something to my village or my parish altogether. Soufriere, Scottsdale, and Gallion. I want to tell the people that when everything they had, or they were depending on, which is their job, their daily life, is gone. What will happen next? And I want you all to open all your eyes to see that. What will happen next? The pirate or the Prime Minister will come to Scottsdale and Souffle Point Michel and try to choke a $300-400 in all your hands, saying he loves you all. He do not love you all, my people. He loves to see you poor. I say this with no fear, with no doubt. And I want to make a little correction on what my cousin Jeff said. He had a brilliant contribution tonight. But when he said that the pirate was too busy campaigning, I do not believe it. But before I say what I'm going to say, let me ask Mr. G. Mr. G, it is said that the guy who is the alleged murderer was a passport seller. Is that true?
Yes, that is my understanding.
No, my cousin Jeff, it's not that the pirate, our pirate, was too busy campaigning. She had no big job to do in Scotland Souffle for campaigning, you know. You know that, Jeff? But the fact is, since this man was I still saying is, a passport peddler, passport seller, the guy who had the next hotel told us on the other side when I used to call it show, do not say people selling passport. But I'm not hearing him say nothing. But since this man is a passport seller, the other pirate could not stop him. That is the only reason. Our pirates have no hard time campaigning in Scotland and so forth. Just go and give people until $500. For another fact, Mr. G, I was in Scotland in July, and a young lady told me, even in the sham election, you know, they gave her $500 to vote. This is a disaster. So she did not have any problem campaigning. It's just that she could not stop the man because the man is a passport seller. Now, I'm going to close. But the other guy, I heard him this morning with Martha, this afternoon, sorry. Attorney Christian or Dr. Andrews, you all have the legal mind. The people that want me to say, if this man kills somebody, I cannot say that because this man is a peaceful man. You can listen to him, Mr. David is a peaceful man. But to invent a Chinese man, a Chinese woman, or a sniper, or a bandit from America, from Japan, come to kill that man, who would be responsible for this man's life? Can anybody tell me if you know?
Yeah, well, I'll see if Jeff is a smart guy here with us. I'll see if he can give you the answer to that. But I want to thank you for that call because I mean,
thank you, sir.
It really opened our eyes a great deal, and I think I saw Jeff nodding. So your countryman, obviously, he's agreeing with some of what you're saying. Jeff, I would like you to try to respond to some of that and to add your own thoughts to all of this. But I just want to go to Lambi 1 second. See, Lambi, give out the numbers, and see if we can take a few calls before we move on too far.
Global View and Q, the numbers to contact us are as follow: 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, 305-432-9624. And we're standing by for your calls. We've got a call on the line. Let's take this call. Caller, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have just listened to the gentleman that spoke at length concerning the situation he has at his land.
Yes.
And Mr. G, one of the gentlemen on the panel, he was saying before that thing escalate, and he does not want it to happen like what happened in Scotland, in Buckley. But the thing is, it's already serious because the man said he threw a stone after the man on the machine to hit him at the back. I mean, the thing is, the glass protected the man, but the man, the rock could have hit the man, and that could have been a serious problem. So that is very, very serious already. And he has gone to the police. And what the police told him that they are not engineers or whatever. I mean, that is far enough, to really step in there and put an end to that, because I mean, you can see the situation already, and the man have children. You don't know what can happen. So I think the authorities need to really step in there and really fix that situation before we have another, maybe worse than what happened in Babcock Lake Valley. I think that is very, very serious, and action needs to be taken quickly, because that could be another situation on Dominica, and that is what we do not want. Thank you.
No, I agree with you entirely. I think the authorities should step in and fix that problem. Yes, Lambi?
Another caller, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with your call.
Hello?
Yes, good night. Go ahead with your call.
When you look at the situation in Dominica, the native of Dominica have no rights in this country. Foreigners in control, because you have the crime minister selling passport, and you have criminals coming in our country to kill people. Remember, they tried to kill Lennox, bring people to kill Lennox, and they're going to continue to bring people to kill all kind of people in the country that they don't want in the country, because the crime minister of Dominica do not love people of the country, only love himself. He's ripping up the country. And this thing about peaceful demonstrations have to stop. We have to go and serious demonstration. There's nothing peaceful can change Dominica. We have to be rough, and we have to start to change things. We have to block road and stop disturbance in Dominica. Dominica now cannot change with this thing about peaceful. Because the government is not peaceful. The government is a criminal. So you're going to fight a criminal in peace. You have to be rough on the government. Government is a criminal, is a crime prime minister, crime government. So the people have to go rough on our government.
All right, thanks a lot, sir.
We can't be pretending about peace. Peace can't solve nothing in Dominica right now. The war that have to solve that thing in Dominica, not peace.
Well, let me just interject. The gentleman should know a little about history. The women of Portugal in around about 1973 brought down the autocratic dictatorship which had ruled Portugal for over 40 years peacefully. Martin Luther King spearheaded the same peaceful transition of power, well, transition in the sense of introducing the civil rights. You've had peaceful movements in South America, which has brought down rather despotic governments. So I don't share the gentleman's comments at all, because in my view, with the greatest of respect, it doesn't reflect the historical reality. The fact of the matter is, of course, and if you block a road, that is a peaceful initiative. If you take action to stop what is wrong, there is nothing inherently violent about this. So again, the whole phenomenon of simply taking up arms has great dangers. Let's put it that way, particularly from an uncaring government, and particularly from a force which, a la the Mongoose gang, will not hesitate to take life arbitrarily and capriciously. So there's a time and a place for every season, my friend. So I think you are wrong, respectfully, when you say that there is no role for peaceful protest in Dominica. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, you want to take another call?
Yes, I hope the caller is still there. Caller, are you still there? Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm there. Good evening. Sorry about that, gentlemen. I was doing, I appreciate the program you all have tonight, this evening there. And I hope the people will be listening with the earnest heart to make a change for the forward movement of Dominica. Because we cannot have all this bloodshed and this violence in this beautiful country. Dominica was one of it's like the Eden of the Caribbean, nature island, and to see where we are right now, we cannot allow that. I was looking earlier at the achievement of this gentleman that passed away. This man, with all his achievement, this man could have And I know that was also his intention, to help the people of Soufriere Scottsdale and in Dominica with his potential as far as animation in his movies. This is what we had in Dominica. And like one of the callers said, he did more for Scottsdale and Soufriere than even the Pal Rep and the Prime Minister. And that's the type of person I didn't know him, but from what everyone says, this is what was going on. And now this gentleman up in Marigot going through a same dilemma with the Chinese. We have to, the government seeing this right happening, unfold in front of them. What are they going to do about that? So like he said, the people need to come together as one unit to make, I'm not talking about, not even violently. We could just come together and cross the country down. Come together as one. This cannot continue. Look at what's happening there in Dominica. The Chinese said that, the Prime Minister said they're going to build an international airport. But from my understanding, from research, these guys are mining copper. So that's deceitful. So what are we going to do about that? What are the police officers? What the environment? What business planning doing about that? What is the people in the businesses? The teachers? What are they doing about that? The concerned citizens? This was a blatant lie. And they're mining copper, going to destroy the environment. People, if you all don't take heed, we were going to destroy what we have. Some of us in Dominica can leave and go overseas. Some of you, that's all you all have is this country. And you're taking it for granted. This is a beautiful program. I hope we could continue. And to the gentleman in Marigot that are going through this situation with the Chinese, more power to you. And I hope the people come together and make a change happen. But I support you 100%. Thank you. I'm listening.
All right. Thanks a lot, Trucker. Lambi, you're taking another call?
Yes. Caller, please go ahead.
Good night.
Good night.
Go right ahead.
Let me inform you all about something that's going on in Wesley. What is the Wesley people fault? This Chinese goes to people land. I'll give you some example. Grade several people land. Some of them have a sweet potato on it. They throw stone and sand on the land and grade it. When the people go on the land, they can't make out the land. They went back 3 weeks after. They made the Chinese grade the land and planting sweet potato on the same piece of land. Right now, those Chinese go up on the piece of land that Edison bought for the airport. When we went up there, we said, this is nice flat land for the airport. Airport is not going to build in Wesley. They're building a Chinese town in Wesley. And they're going on, and they're selecting and choosing the best land. That people are not even paid for their land. The Chinese have so much power in Dominica. The people of the country have no rights. They can just go on your land, dig your land, and do what they want without being paid. And what my concern about is why the people accept those stupidness there. God, help us in this fight. The fight is against the Chinese right now and the government of Dominica. The Prime Minister, that Prime Minister there is a greedy, not even a greedy, he's a hag. He hag. He wants all for himself. He doesn't think about Dominican people.
Right. Well, thanks a lot for that. Got you going. Lambi, I'm going to move over to Jeff. If you have a call, just make me a sign and I'll take it. Jeff, I wanted to go over to you because I know that you want to continue where you left off. I mean, you heard some of what Dr. Andre said. You heard what some of the callers are saying. You know a lot more about that particular the Soufriere situation than we do. Let's just go a little bit more into depth into that, because here's what I'm concerned about. I don't want to see the same thing happen to David or to anybody or the people in Wesley or any other part of Dominica, in the east or wherever, Northern Cali, Bishop, anywhere you have these things taking place. But certainly we have to feel for the workers of the Colibri Ridge Resort. I mean, this man has been phenomenal. He's treated these people so very, very well. And this man, we have to call him by his name. His name is Daniel. We have to remember his name, and we have to remember Dominic. These are fine people. This man didn't have to come to Dominica until he was very well aware of in Canada, where he was, Montreal and Quebec. Very, very well off. He was very comfortable, but he came to Dominica. And we had this man in our midst, and we didn't make the most of him. We didn't put him on a pedestal and ask him to teach our children some of what he knows. We didn't ask him to get involved in some major projects in knowledge industries or in the film industries or in animation or in production of this kind of thing. We didn't ask him to do that. Instead, he's embroiled in some dispute with his neighbors, trying to prevent him from passing on his workers from passing to get to his project. And I'm not unsure I understand why it is that some people making excuses as to why the authorities, the law enforcement, was not able to get that. We have laws. I have seen members of the opposition arrested and put in jail for 2 days, and then frivolous charges brought against them, and for 5 years, these charges cannot be prosecuted in the court of law. And yet you're trying to tell me that the police cannot do anything to have prevented this from happening, Jeff? Help us out with some of that.
Well, Mr. G, some new callers raised some good fun, but I want to take you guys a little deep in some of that situation. I will address the issue of the power rep and vote and what the man has done for the community. But I'm gonna talk about this tonight. I think it's the first time I'm gonna put this out there. The issue with this is when Daniel and I spoke for the first time, I remember they came after Maria. I was the first person who made donations to the library in Dominica, books from my organizations from that center. And in doing this, there's a lady, because I was on local news here, the Fox, NBC, CBS here in the Midwest, and someone called me from Ohio, I never met, and told me they want to make a donation for Maria, but the donation they want to make is, they heard them collecting stuff, they want to pay for my ticket to make sure that I go to Dominica to distribution myself. I said, that's kind of why. And the lady said to me that her son went to Ross University, and after Erica, they tried to help, and they were very disappointed with the way that the donations went, because they made the donations through the government, and they were very disappointed with what happened. So if I'm going there, they want to make sure that I go there myself to make sure these things distributed to the people that they know. So when we were talking about hurricane, I let him know this and so on, what happened. So he put me aside and he said, well, you really want to rebuild the Soufriere school, but you don't want to give it to the government to do. You want to do it on his own, because his organization runs them and they would like to be able to put it himself. So they give this gentleman, and the teachers at the Soufriere Primary can tell you that, and the community of Soufriere can tell you. So there was this huge kind of tug of war. But credit to Mr. Langwe, he put his foot down and said, I'm going to build this because I have to be accountable for these funds. And the man wanted to school. So from day one, there was issue with the power rep, and like they want to pretend like they do everything. And credit to Daniel, and that's what I love about the guy. He's a man of integrity. He believed in what is right. So that's how that school was built. So there was issue there from the get-go. Then, if you read the article on DNO, it talks about the Jonathan gentleman blocked the road. People want to stop the road and stuff like that. And he dug the road, all kind of stuff. Why was this man not arrested, fined, take to court, or nothing was done about him? As my cousin Tony said, Dr. Andre, you are the judge. You may know better than us. But what I'm saying is, right there was an issue. And while I was talking to Daniel, and I said, but Daniel, like what are your plans? I will tell you this guy, and we have to look at this. The work Daniel did in Soufriere, Scott said Galion. And I can mention, there's a lot of them I can go through. And if you compare that to the work that the DLP has done since the government under this current prime minister, the margin is vast. They built a road from Soufriere to Scott said that was destroyed by Hurricane Maria, part of the road, and over how many years now they never fix it? Who promised to fix it? Daniel told me this. He was trying to raise funds to fix that piece of the road between Soufriere and Scott said. From me, he was trying to do that. The government still haven't done that. If you look at in Soufriere and Scott said, what else can they claim they have done? None. Even they tried to bring Corner Black, it couldn't work. This is what the big projects they're talking about. What have they done? That's it. That's it. And I would like the paragraph to tell me what else have they done. Now they started a project, and this Mr. G, we have to talk about this some more. There's a lot of land issue in that Soufriere Scott area in that government. They are building a project at the Bello Estate. People remember Bello, Castle Estate. That's where my grandparents' property are. This piece of property, okay, was owned by two gentlemen. I had a piece of land in the area from my grandparents, and Parry Ballard, my cousin who passed away, so received. He and I had an agreement on how do we move this around. And these people bought property, and I exchanged with them because I wanted to stay on my grandparents' property. I want to stay in the Ballard area. These gentlemen came, they had this land, they were going to build cottages and so on. To my understanding, these two people, these two gentlemen, they must have been a couple. One of them, from what I was told, was, got ill and so on. And the other one get into some situation with prison. I don't know which country, what happened. So by default, the land comes to the government. So they are building these houses in Scottsdale. They promised the people Christmas last year, the house will be ready for Christmas of 2022. They told them before the election, it will be ready by August. Now they're saying to them, the house will be ready by Christmas this coming. None of that have happened. My question is, the government, I would like them to, and Parry Ballard himself was upset about that before he died because we had a discussion about that. We would like the government to make us know, how do they acquire this nice estate, building houses, building homes for people up there? And who are the reception of these homes? Who's going to receive these homes? How did they get that property? Can they tell us, show us the document, how did they get this property? Another situation again that happened in that Soufriere area, if you're going up to Soufriere by the Sulphur Spring and like you leave the school behind you and you're going up, you turn left. To your right, there's this Eunice Estate. To your left, there's this piece of land. I think it was in the early 90s, late 80s, young boy, Mr. Menard was parliament for the Soufriere constituency back then of the DFP government. This piece, they were going to build homes, like how they did in Scottsdale, in Southern Scottsdale. And the DFP government, they said, all the people by the seashore, they're going to move them because they were advised by meteorologists that at some point, the oceans are going to get higher and these people, they may need to evacuate. So they went up there to do the assessment to build these homes. When they went to build this home, listen to this, the EIA report show the DFP government they should not build homes there because if they do, then the people living there, the sewer and everything will contaminate the water for the people of Soufriere and Scottsdale. Now, remember, I have to be fair about this. Remember, back then, Ghana did not have water because it was when the UWP came to government, the people of Ghana got water. So here's the facts about this. They did not build the homes. They listened to the professionals with the EIA report, and they went and gave land to other people on the other side of the road. You know what happened to them, Mr. G, Dr. Andrew, and the listeners? As we speak, right before, I think it's an election ago, two elections ago, they sold that land, to my knowledge, to a church where they use it as a cemetery. And as we speak, there are at least 3 or 4 people buried at that location. This water can get contaminated. That's the level of unplanned or secrecy in this country. And I will share another thing. I came with an investor. We were looking at buying Kubuli area. There's a water catchment in that Lubia area, the Lubia water. Not too far from there is the Wasco catchment area. These gentlemen came with us. They did an environmental impact assessment as well. And they look at, when they did the area, they advised us before we buy the area for water bottling, we need to check the area. They went and they did a survey and they told us, I will not advise you to buy this water area. The reason for it is because the Bellevue Shopping Housing Scheme, the way these houses are built and the sewer system are built, is a matter of time before the sewer system gets into that water. And remember, Dowasco has a catchment water there. And this water, to my knowledge, supplying people from Point Michel all the way to the West Coast. Was planning know about this? My question, is Dowasco aware of people burying that area in Soufriere that was supposed to be an area reserved? Is Dowasco aware of that area as well in that Lubia area? This is the kind of thing going on. These are the things to be addressed. Now, going into this thing with this road and this gentleman in Soufriere, here's the situation. When you look at what they have done, the government, and what Daniel Languez has done in this community is vastly different. This man went and he built the Soufriere Primary. He went and he helped with the books and library in Soufrière. That's how I built relationship, because I was the first person to help the Soufrière Primary with a library. My family and I found money from my pocket, and we were talking about it, and he encouraged them. The gentleman built that. He went to the preschool, the road to Gallia, to make that bypass for the people of Gallia to be able to get to Gallia. The man went and helped in Thailand with books for his RASDEM organization. This gentleman's plan was to renovate the basketball court in Soufrière and Scott said. He actually helped with the coral reefs and the problem that there were some issues with that. He paid and helped with this to make sure Dominica remained this attractive aqua place for scuba diving, snorkeling. He did that, paid for all of that. He was moving on to build a bus stop in Scottsdale together with a public convenience in Scottsdale. Now, people are going to say, what about the bars in Scottsdale? That was not funds from the government. These funds were from Express des Îles, together with the playing field. I think they helped renovate somewhere in Colleyho, Dublin. Express des Îles built those bars. You know what they did? They went and they took the plan. A former parrot ended up being project manager, whatever he was, to build this thing. And they built these bars without the way Express des Îles plan was, without any washroom. That's why Daniel came to the rescue and wanted to build a restroom in the area. These are facts. But to answer the question about the power rep and busy on election, here's what a lot of people don't know. The threat is she always afraid that I will say yes to the current prime minister to be a candidate on the DLP. So she's always a worried freak whenever I'm on the island, thinking that the PM and I'm trying to kick her out. But no, I have no interest. I have made it clear to her. And I've already made it clear to the PM that the day that they get to the things that really is not right, I will be the opponent. So I don't have to buy votes. I don't have to go and campaign for votes. The people know what I stand for, what I believe in. And I challenge her that the only reason why she's winning this seat is because of the party name and not because of her well-being or not because she has failed the people of the Soufrière constituency day after day, election after election. But if I have to continue and talk about the work this man has done, Mr. G.
Let me just go. I'll come back to you, Jeff.
Yes.
Let me just go back to Dr. Andrew. Lambi, you can always interrupt us, and if you have a call at any time, right? I'll just keep an eye on you. Let us know if there's a call, we'll take it. Dr. Andrew, you can see all of those things that are happening there. You can see there's a lot more brewing because it seems as though there's a number of things that are still not settled in the area in terms of land. And obviously, some of that land Jeff is talking about, that access road there might be the road that people have to use to get to some of that land. And it seems to me that there is still a lot of contention, a lot of confusion. And if the authorities don't step up and do their work properly, it's likely we're going to get a lot more problems in that area and in some other areas. I mean, certainly Wesley looks like an area that could become very contentious in the near future.
Well, you're absolutely correct. And the question is, why did Daniel have to die on account of a matter that could have been addressed years ago on the principle of justice? He got a court order. The order just had to be enforced. You have one of the parties, disgruntled party, who defied that court order, who did everything to harass, to intimidate, threaten, get his dogs to threaten people and so on. And Mr. G, that went on unabated. What is the nature of justice in Dominica? What is the nature of law enforcement in Dominica? The whole question of this gentleman having a gun, allegedly. You heard Wayne James on radio not too long ago. You might remember that famous case in Portsmouth involving one of the acolytes of the political directorate who was before the court. A gun was tendered as an exhibit during the trial, and you have a chief of police go in and send an officer, Gasso, go and take the gun, because the guy owned it, but the gun was unlicensed. A chief of police or acting chief of police saying, despite the fact that the gun was made an exhibit in the trial, go and fetch the gun. To hell with the court. To hell with it. Because a member of the cabal was involved. Is that the same thing that applied in this tragic case which resulted in the death of this gentleman who had done so much for himself and for the community? Is that what this is all about?
Can we take a call? Lam, you have a call?
Yes, we do.
Hello, good night.
Go ahead, caller.
Good night.
There's also a similar situation in an area with a hotel. In a flat area where Mrs. Sam Raphael has a hotel. Another customer has a piece of land above Sam Raphael. And the man is putting pressure on the people to sell the land to him. And the people who want to sell the land to him, the Prime Minister, the Crime Minister getting involved, telling these people that they can buy the land for Sam Raphael and sell it to him at what price. You know, this is what's going on in this country. This country here will not be peaceful unless that government leaves. We need to get rid of that government. That's what we have to do. We can't talk about governments. The government won't fix anything. The government is selfish and only fixing things for himself. Right? Because the man want the family to sell the land for him, and he don't want to pay the price of the land.
But Paula, we have to have the facts on that, and we don't know the facts. Maybe you might have some of the facts on that, but we don't have the facts on that. Okay, so we really cannot, because as I said, we don't have the facts on who wants to buy what, and this might be something that you know, but we don't know. Okay.
Hello.
All right, Dr. Andre, you were saying something?
Well, in principle, the gentleman is right, because the fact of the matter is the government has shown a callous disregard for the rights of landowners, particularly where so-called large development schemes are concerned. Why is the library, the land on the library, why is the library being allowed to deteriorate or degenerate? Why is that? Why do you think? Perhaps they don't see it. Perhaps it's hidden in plain sight. The fact of the matter is clear. These folk have shown a blatant disregard for the architectural or the historical imprint of Dominica. And they have shown that they only worship one principle: might is right. That is the bottom line. That is what is so dangerous about what's happening in Dominica. Whether it's in the case of Jungle Bay, I know it's in the case of other initiatives throughout Dominica. Persons, unfortunately, are being put in a situation where we have to seek recourse from the court system, which is another topic in its entirety, to seek redress for being dispossessed of their ancestral land. That is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. So the caller is right. It's a chronic, endemic problem in Dominica, which will have serious repercussions for the Dominica that we know. You think you could go to China and say, Shuang Shua, I'll take that piece of land of yours? You think you could do that? Huh? Go out, ask the Africans who were living in China. What happened to them? Can't do it. Why should it be done in Dominica with impunity? That is a question.
Yes, and that certainly is a question. And, as we know, the time is running out on us. I mean, soon is going to be the 10 o'clock hour on us. But Jeff, I wanted you to sort of start to wind down, and somebody I think you had some more that you wanted to contribute. But I'm particularly interested in what may happen going down the road in Soufriere, because I mean you have lots of people involved in it. People's lives are at stake, right? These two people, God bless their soul, they're gone. They're not coming back. We hope their family whoever is in charge for the estate, may come in and keep the thing running. But what if they don't? What is going to happen to these people and their livelihoods? What is going to happen to that community? I'm sure these people made a tremendous contribution to the community by the fact that they were employed and probably very well paid from what we know of this man. And so it seems to me this is going to have when is the vigil? Is it tomorrow night?
Yeah, it is tomorrow night, but we're also working on something else, trying to put some funds together to go to the island to help with that, because this guy, it really hurt with what happened. And for the first time, I have to say in a long time, the people of Soufriere, Scott Gadio, has put politics aside and ready to stand with these two people who lost their life. And Mr. G, so, a lot of people may not understand this, but some of these people in Soufriere, Scott Gadio, who lost their job, who may lost their job because of these people happen, or we have no uncertainty of what's going to happen. Mr. G, think about this. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. This is a man at Christmas time. Take care of his employees, treat them well. This employees right now asking themselves, scratching their head, where am I going to get the next wage from? If things are difficult, what's going to help me, figure things out? These people, they may not have a job. This young man, he's been training, helping to do stuff, with scuba diving, snorkeling, help with the coral reefs. This other set of, and we were working at a project to get some young farmers to grow stuff for his business and so on. These people's dreams might be destroyed. These people are affected seriously. What is next for these people? Can you replace these people? No. How are you going, the government? How they have shown, as I just explained, the work they have done as per citizen government compared to Mr. Langwas. These people are struggling. They are hurt. And I think this thing that happened, the people is going to stand up. I believe in these people. They're going to stand up against this wrongdoing of what these gentlemen do to Daniel and Dominic.
Let's hope, Jeff, that the justice system will take its course. We know the wheels of justice turn very, very slowly in Dominica. We understand that we can't talk too much about the case specifically. We understand that it goes to court sometime in March next year. But certainly, we hope that Daniel and Dominic will get justice, and that justice will not be delayed. Certainly, Dr. Andre, I mean, we've seen the pattern of justice in Dominica. We've seen cases that have languished in the courts for years. What I found is that some people don't appear to look too concerned as to what their fate might be in the courts. And so it seems to me that we need to look again more close. As you said, this is something that our justice system is something that we're going to have to look a lot more closely at.
Oh, absolutely. And I heard a few days ago, Justice Williams, I believe, made some honest but scathing comments about the magistracy. He was dead on point, but I would just remind him that similar or a certain degree of criticism could be made of the Superior Court or the Supreme Court, quite frankly, in terms of the time certain decisions have been made, the time cases involving the opposition have languished in the black hole of Calcutta, and it bears repeating the biblical admonition, let those who are without sin cast the first stone. But of course, because again, the good thing, if there's any good thing about this sad, tragic death, is that the eyes of the world is upon us. And that is happening in the wake of those international journalists who've exposed the true nature of our passport selling schemes. Those who end up purchasing those passports and for what reasons. And they have put the lie to those on the ground who piously proclaim, beating their chests like Tarzan, we don't sell passports. That's not what we're selling. Well, when you go to Afghanistan and when you go to Lebanon, Beirut, Lebanon, and you see a huge billboard, Mr. G, proclaiming the virtues of buying a Dominican passport, then you know the wool is being pulled over the eyes of Dominicans. And a caller or two raised the question, what value do we place on our cherished land? Why do we sing, I love beauty, I love splendor, I'll so rich and fair, almost surely gaze in wonder at the apathy of our people, gaze in wonder at how their callous disregard for the future of their own children and their heritage, gaze in wonder at the trampling of the rights of landowners in Dominica? Is that what you have to gaze in wonder at? So this whole thing raises some fundamental problems, questions. This is not just about the Daniel and his partner and Soufriere and Scott said. This is about Dominica, where we are and where we should be. And what value do we place on this cherished soil, this space referred to in the articles I read, tiny specks in the Caribbean? You know, what value do we place on it? And that is the fundamental question.
Yes.
What value do we place? Only in collective action can we change this sorry scheme of things entire. Thank you.
Yes, and I want to go back to Jeff, because Jeff, you know, let's take it back to Soufriere again, because you see, I mean, what Dr. Andre is saying, Soufriere is a reflection of the overall of Dominica. This is what is likely to happen to us. And so let's talk a little bit more, Jeff. I think you had some other things that you wanted to say about the situation down there.
The thing here is, with what happened to Daniel and his family by the Sulphur Spring and so on, there's a lot of land dispute there that really need to be addressed. And now you have the government building from the housing project money from the World Bank, building, that's what they say, they get the funds from building the housing scheme in the Scottsdale area. I see a lot of problem there. First of all, these homes or houses, who are going to be the owners of the houses? Are they going to give people title to them? What about if they give people title to the homes and they never actually own the land themselves? That's a serious issue. I see problem everywhere. What about the people that claim to want to live in those houses? Are the people of Soufriere Scott said going to be comfortable living among those people? And who are the title holder of these homes? Are they going to get title? And if they get title, are they going to show them, yes, we bought the land, this is how much we pay for it? And this thing should be made public. Because if they bought this land for real, they need to let us know who they buy the land from, how much they paid for the land, and how would they come up with a plan. And I'm even questioning, is Dowasco even aware they're building these homes? Because that means they have to build up a bigger water storage system in that area. Now, another area too, like in the Soufriere Scott area, Gano itself is another place. There's a lot of private land there. And I've heard the government talk about they're going to put a cashew plant. Where are they going to put it? Are they going to just bulldoze these people out and take their private land and put the cashew plant?
But
or is that a scheme you're talking about? So this area here, Mr. G, I mean, there's a lot of land dispute that need to be addressed. I remember when I was an elected member of the Soufriere Scott Gano Village Council, we had a little situation with some neighbors with land, and we went to local government. We went with
Jeff, I seem to be hearing a voice in the. I don't know if it's Lambi's mic that's on or something, but so okay. So go ahead, Jeff.
I think it was Lambi's mic. And when we went to the village council, people like Cliff David and myself, with these people, we wanted a simple problem. We went there, and these people had huge argument, kind of like Daniel and this gentleman who's been accused. And we went and we said, look, listen. Here's the planning. This is above us. Here's the road. Here's the situation. If you want to take the matter to court, you guys can. But this is an access public road, and you can't prevent them from passing there. Problem solved. Local government. That was local government, not central government. We solved that problem. So my concern is these people who have the families and so on and land in that area, I'm very worried about what is going to happen in the future, because even like the Unis land and all this area, I'm afraid that these guys may come in and just take the people land. So when the government purchase land or make land available for whatever they may do, I think it is important that they make it available to this information available to the public, so everyone know what is going on. And even when they send the land to this gentleman who was accused, and they tell him it's not an access or public road, whatever the case may be, this should have been addressed as well, because the people of Soufriere, so many people complain about this gentleman who's been accused of his behavior. And even me myself want to have to throw myself in the drain, in the ditch, to let this guy, he's driving this kind of vehicle, like this army kind of ranger vehicle, when he on the place. He look at you a face like, if you look at him too hard, he want to beat you up. He look at you with this ray, like, I mean, you have to, and people will tell you about this gentleman. There's a guest house in the area called Soufriere Guest House. The employees complain when they leaving work, they have to look carefully, because when this man coming down the road, he on the place. And I'm sure the PAREP is aware of the situation, and she did nothing. So I'm calling on the Prime Minister to ask the PAREP to resign as Minister of Tourism, because she had helped the situation where she had an opportunity to investors to make Dominica shine, and instead of that, she was not able to do the job, and she had put Dominica in bad light. This government, they need to do something about this. Somebody need to pay the responsibilities. And as I said last night, I will write a letter to the Prime Minister asking for the resignation of our tourism minister, who has made our tourism product look very bad in the Commonwealth of Dominica.
Well, it's 10 o'clock now in Dominica, Jeff. I'm assuming that's your final word, your closing remarks.
Yes, that is, and I just want to thank for the opportunity. And again, the people of Soufriere Scott said, let's stand up together with Daniel and his family, and let us show the rest of Dominica we are not going to tolerate any foreign people to come and run us in our own place.
Thank you, Jeff. Dr. Andre, I think it's just about the time that we wind down.
Indeed, indeed. And let me commend Jeff for his powerful presentation. Let me commend Lambi for his diligence and showing in the background, and Mr. G, and for the public service that you're doing. And let me thank your listeners who've taken time off to listen to us this evening. But no, again, we cannot allow this sorry scheme of things to continue. There's too much at stake. People's livelihoods are being lost. People's future are being aborted. You have individuals who can't even, quite frankly, fully provide food for their families. The last thing they can afford to do is to lose a cherished job in the Christmas season, or in any season, for God's sake. And this is not just an isolated event. If there is an investigation into this phenomenon in Dominica, you will see it's happening with regularity and frequency. And that old saying, that is to say, if we stand silent when this injustice is being perpetrated in such a frequent manner, it will just be a matter of time before a similar fate will befall us, so that we have to decide how much we value or cherish our children's future, our family's future, the future of the island, whether we want it transformed into a paradise, not for Dominicans on the ground, but for foreign interlopers who come with guns and bulldozers and disenfranchise Dominica as if it's the most common thing that they can do. This is a clarion call, and I hope Dominicans support the people of Soufriere and Scottsdale, who know much more profoundly than I know their loss, this tragic but senseless loss of persons who already made such a tremendous contribution to Dominica in terms of their work ethic, in terms of their vision, in terms of their magnanimity and their generosity in hiring locals, in terms of trying to develop industry, the agricultural industry, in their insistence that if they prosper, the people of Gallia and Scott's Head and Soufriere should prosper also. That is what we want to foster here. Not persons chasing people with dogs, digging up roads, toting guns. A few months ago, some young fellows, probably the little snipers, discharged firearms, which was caught on social media. Didn't somebody say that we have the best police force in the Caribbean? Is this a joke? This is not a joke. This is serious business. The right to security is a fundamental right of every citizen in Dominica. And you have a situation where you have a cherry picking in terms of law enforcement. Those with guns who are law abiding are dispossessed of them, while those who go intimidating people and breaking and being guilty or perpetrating criminal offenses are being allowed to do so with impunity. We have to make sure that the international press understand what's happening. We deserve no less. Dominica's future is at stake, and we should not allow anybody to just snatch that away. We have to make a stand at some point and save this isle. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andre. I don't think we have that much time left, really. I mean, if Dominicans have to do something, they need to do it now. And it seems to me many of our callers and some of our people who contribute to our talk shows on Q95, they're quite right. It's going to take a movement of all of the people and united, stand their ground and make their voices felt and make their demands. Because I think we have a problem with governance. We do not have the kind of good governance that we saw under Edward LeBlanc. And so that is part of the problem. I mean, Jeff told us very clearly, the representation is not there. Otherwise, Daniel, things might have gone differently. That impasse had been resolved much earlier. Again, I want to thank David for joining us tonight. He too is going through something similar. And I certainly wish David well. I hope people will join him and try to help him and support him in standing his ground to maintain his ownership of his property and not allow him to be displaced from his own property. So I think this is what we're coming around to. It's coming around full circle. I mean, Edward LeBlanc told us, he put the Aliens Landholding Act for us. He told us, listen, Pakiti Port Dominic, God no. That's what he meant. He put that there to say, okay, Dominican assets are for Dominicans. But it seems as everybody has forgotten about that. Nobody even remember about LeBlanc anymore. Nobody remember about Douglas. Nobody remember about Fairchild. So everybody go down the merry way. Passports rule, right? But anyway, I just want to thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Irving, and thank all of the persons who are with us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Radio Land and listen to us on television and everything. I appreciate you being with us tonight for the long haul. Some of you are still here with us, and I want to reach out to you on Facebook and thank you for staying with us. I hope we put some information out there that could be of benefit to some of the younger people in particular who have not been thinking about those possibilities and the potentials that they have if they could hang on to some of the resources that their parents own. But if their parents' land is being taken away from them, what will they inherit themselves as young people who are coming up? They're the future generations. Jeff is right. Something needs to be done to take care of this business. And I just want to say finally a very good night to the people of Soufriere who have been impacted by the loss of Daniel and Dominic. I certainly wish you well. I hope something can be done to help you have a better Christmas than it looks like you may be having right now. Certainly, we would want to support you tomorrow evening. We'll see how Q95 in some way, I don't know whether we can find a way to carry some of the proceedings, Jeff. I'll talk to you, see how we can help in some way to bring the situation there to light and to provide support and exposure for the good people of Soufriere who are suffering the loss of Daniel and Dominic at the moment. In fact, every Dominican is suffering that loss now. We didn't even know what we were losing. Now we know. So, gentlemen, good night, Lambi. Good night, Sherwin. Good night, Irvin. And Jeff. And I want to shout out to Dr. Michaels and Gebu and David for joining us later. So thank you, gentlemen. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
solution to this pollution. Yeah, got to find a solution to this pollution. Oh, gotta find a solution to this pollution. The poor man I feel, let's go out. The poor man I feel, let's get out. The poor man I feel, let's go out. The poor man feel, let's get out. Gas gone up, bus fare gone up, rent gone up, phone bill gone up, light bill gone up, tax gone up, car parts gone up, and we can't take the fuss. And there has got to be a solution to this pollution. Yeah, gotta find a solution to this pollution. We're growing, gotta find a solution to this pollution. Whoa, 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 whoa. Gotta find a solution to this pollution. Only the poor man I feel, yeah. The poor man I feel, go out. The poor man feel, I know. Only him feel, yeah. Time gone up, skillion gone up, onion gone up, red beans gone up, black pepper gone up, chicken gone up, and the parents them angry, cause the baby them hungry, and there has got to be a solution to this your pollution. Right now, yeah, got to find a solution to this pollution. Promises won't help. You got to find a solution to this pollution.